Hello, everybody, and welcome to Changemakers, your show for new online business owners looking for inspiration and courage as they begin their entrepreneurial journey. On this show, we have solo episodes where yours truly, Valerie Fisher, will discuss neuro-linguistic programming, sales and marketing, and business tips. Majority of the show will have guests who will share stories of their own journey and whose products and services also hope to serve new online business owners like you, our listeners and viewers. I'm excited for this episode, so let's get the ball rolling. We entrepreneurs have to take a break every once in a while, and what better way to do that than to travel? Today's guest, Angela Sandley, is a DIY travel mentor, and her business was also born during the pandemic. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to another episode of Changemakers. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Changemakers. Today, we have Angela Santo. Yay, good energy today. This is a different kind of episode. I'm so happy. All right. Thank you, Angela, for gracing our show today. And you know, like we were chatting backstage before we recorded this, and I asked her. I mean, I kind of gave her a background of this show, who it's for. So it's for all of you followers, viewers, listeners, who are new online business owners like us. So Angela's the same. And she's going to tell us all about her journey. All right, first question, like with all the shows, all the guests of this show, what change did you want in your life or in this world that inspired you to start your business?
Yeah, so it's actually a twofold thing. So in terms of the change for myself, it was just the case that I didn't want to be in this super strict corporate structure, right? So it's just like, okay, you're going into work, grinding, let's say 8 or 10 hours for someone else's dream. And, that gets really tiring and it gets unmotivating too, because you're not doing it for yourself. You're just doing it for someone else. And I'm just like, no, I don't really want that. Like, I'm more creative and I want to be like out actually reaching people instead of just being in one confined space. So that was the change I wanted. And then in terms of, on the whole, it's just the case like with travel, a lot of people maybe put it off until they're all set in a big girl job or like a big boy job. And, you have the family, like you have your kids, like you're doing all your responsibilities. And then, in terms of taking care of yourself, enjoying yourself to the fullest, that's kind of put on the back burner. And I'm just kind of in the persuasion, hey, you can kind of do both things. Like you can be like a great wife, you can be a great parent, but you can still enjoy the world, enjoy those different kind of experiences, connecting with people, because whether you're traveling locally or internationally, you just learn so much in those travel experiences that you can actually bring back to your life, and it just enriches your life and it just allows you to be able to pour more into people because you're actually doing something for yourself instead of having to put like 10 people first and then coming back to yourself type thing.
Yes. I get that. But so that's very interesting because you're one of the very few people who actually answered both. Because usually it's, something that they want in their life or something that they want in the world. But you answered both. So, it's great how you were able to combine those two together. Let us know how you started this business.
Yeah, so it's actually just a combination of all my travel experiences, because I wanted to travel for so long since I was a teenager, but I just didn't know how to plan my own trips. I didn't have the financial backing and everything. So I was just like, okay, it's going to be on the back burner. And I probably won't travel fully until I'm about 30 years old for the reasons that I just mentioned. So I was just like, okay, I was almost set in that mindset. And then there was just like a niggling feeling in me, like, no, like you can actually do this. Like you just have to find the ways. So I went to Google, I found the ways, and I basically been solo traveling since 2015. So I was just thinking like, okay, I did all this travel stuff and I left my job in 2020 thinking like, okay, I'm going to start a new chapter. And then the pandemic happened. So I'm like, what am I going to do now? I have no job. I have no prospects or anything. And then I was like, okay, what can I actually lean on that I'm really proficient in? And then I thought to myself, travel. So many people have asked me about different travel aspects over the last 5 years. So I just thought, well, let me actually turn that into a venture where I can reach a lot of people and make a lot of positive change in that way. Like travel has made such an impact in my own life.
So how did you start? You kind of put together all your itineraries and all the learning, and how was the process?
Yeah, so basically, it's just the case that after going through all the Google searching and kind of just developing a system for myself of how to effectively travel plan, then I just took those like that basic skeleton. I was just like, okay, instead of, having to relay to people 100 times how to do something, I'm just like, okay, I can actually set it up in an organized structure and just break down all the different pieces. So like you have your flights, you have your accommodations, you have budgeting, all that stuff. So I just broke every single part down and then I get all the actionable steps in each part. So people can just digest it and then actually put it in action themselves.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm really asking, digging deeper because I'm so interested in travel. I actually traveled solo myself before I met my husband, and then thankfully, my husband is also a huge, travel fan himself. So I found my perfect partner. So that's why I'm like, how does this service, goes, and how can this help? Because I know of also of people who will need this service. So are there learnings from actual travel, the experiences that you are now using to manage this business, to manage your business?
Yeah, I think the probably the two biggest things that I got from my travel experience that helps me actually in my business is one, confidence, and two, self-awareness. So it's the case, especially when you're solo traveling, you really don't have anyone to fall back on. Like you have to basically be your own advocate. You have to be able to be cognizant of your surroundings. And then it's just the case like in business, okay, like as a sole proprietor, I don't have anyone else backing me up. So I'm just like, okay, like I have to set up my systems. I do like all the different kind of things. So it's kind of the case if I wouldn't have traveled and I tried to set up this business, I kind of would go into it more scared, like, oh my God, like I can't do this. Like this is a totally new area for me. What the hell am I doing? But kind of like, just from that confidence of traveling and just being really self aware and feeling like, okay, like I overcame XYZ challenges and I came out really great on the other side. So I can take on this new challenge that's really out of my realm and actually run with it and just see where it goes type thing.
I can so relate because right now I'm a solopreneur, so this is my own brand. And I remember, so I was like traveling back to Istanbul when I got lost and traveling back in Paris when I got lost. I'm like, where am I? No one's gonna save me. I don't know where, I don't speak the language. Oh, I think I lost you. Yeah, you're back. So, when I was there, and then it's the same thing here. No one's gonna save me. What am I gonna, borrow money from the bank? Who's gonna pay for that, for whatever I borrow from the bank? It's still just going to be me. I mean, I have my husband, but I don't rely on him for anything. So your story kind of, lets me go back to those moments. I'm curious to know, is there a particular moment in your long travel history, I would assume, that actually, you know, inspired you to answer it that way? That moment when you realized I'm all alone. I have to do this myself.
Yeah, it was actually my first trip to London. So like I had done domestic trips and I did like a semi-international to Canada. So I was like, okay, those are like baby steps. But I was still I was still in the US or close to the US, so it was okay. But going to London, I was like, okay, I'm going completely out of the US. I'm going on my own. I've never been there and I'm just going to try to adapt. And also, like, I was going to meet friends there, but I had never met them in person. I just met them online. So I'm just like, okay, I have all these things coming towards me. And I was so, so afraid. But I don't know. I was just like, I really, really want to go. So I just took it head on. And I literally looked dazed and confused and lost and like a total tourist when I got there. But I adapted in like one day. And then I was just like, okay, like, it's just like normal. So I think it's just like getting over that hump of, that huge like roadblock or challenge that seems like you can't get over it. But then once you do and you're on the other side, then you're like, okay, I can take on kind of like the next and on to the next type thing.
Yeah, so we share the same passion, travel, and I don't I might not travel solo anymore, but every time me and my husband go someplace, we make sure that we each have me days. So, for example, he would leave me in a coffee shop and he would go record shopping because he's a jazz freak. So, and I will just be because I like being in a, I like being in a coffee shop and just writing or people watching, just drinking my coffee. I have those moments too. And you mentioned something about self-awareness. Also that I think, when you know what you can and cannot do in a country, I have I have a I'm directionally challenged. It's hard for me to directionally challenged. It's especially challenging when when I'm out of the country. So being self-aware, I know how far I can go without being lost again, like what happened in the past, happened several times in the past. So okay, you mentioned in our in the what do you call this, in the interview form, you also mentioned something about um finding your niche. It's something
Yeah.
that I also try to teach my mentees and the people who follow me, but some of them don't really get what it means and how important it is. Tell me why and how it's important to you and your business.
Yeah, so it's just the case. You think of something like travel, it's an enormous type of industry, right? There's all different kinds of travel. Like you think like, okay, like luxury, solo, budget, like all of this stuff. And you can get overwhelmed. You're thinking like, oh my God, like, how am I going to actually stand out in all of this? How am I not going to feel all the imposter syndrome and everything? And for me, of course, I felt all of that and I still feel that at times, day by day. But I think the biggest thing is just like, okay, what is it that inherently, maybe like one or two things that you're really, really good at and that you can focus on? So that's the first starting point. And then the second point would be doing your market research. So going out, asking questions to people who are generally interested in that field, and then just kind of getting information from them. Because yeah, so basically like you want to get information, right? Because it's the case for any business that you set it up to be able to solve problems for your ideal client base. So the best way to get that information and to solve those problems is actually to ask them. Be like, hey, like, I'm like just kind of like serving like whatever topic area. And then you ask them like, yeah, like what do you guys think about this? Like, what are your specific pain points? Things like that. So then you can actually shape your content and everything to those problems. So it almost makes like creating your niche a little bit easier because like, okay, these are the people that I want to target. I actually asked the people that I want to target, what are their pain points. So now you just have like everything that you need to actually be able to deliver that content to be able to solve those problems type thing.
Mhm. And I think it's also related to what you mentioned about honing in on your unique selling point, right? So,
Yeah.
what do you think is your unique selling point for your business?
Yeah. So it actually took me a while, and it's really funny because I glossed over it for so long, but it was actually right in my face. So it was the case that for me, my unique selling point within the travel industry is that I focus on do it yourself, because a lot of service providers are like, okay, like, we'll do it for you, but they don't really give you the tools to be like, hey, like, if you don't need our services all the time, here are some tools you can actually use to be able to kind of do parts of the itinerary yourself. So where I come in is I'm like, hey, I can actually give you all the tools to be able to do a full itinerary for yourself from A to Z. Now, if you need a travel agent, like maybe like you're doing like a big vacation, or there's just like specific things that you want to do, then of course, like you can go to a travel agent, you can go to a specialist or something. But like, let's say like maybe you just want to take a weekend trip, you probably don't need a travel agent for that. You could do it yourself. So I actually give you the steps to be able to do that yourself, and then contract out if you need to. It's not a must.
That's so great because when we do travel, we combine our big trip to Myanmar, for example. We had days when we had a travel agent plan things for us, all those tours. You gotta have tours, especially for
Yeah.
places like that. But we also wanted to find our own temple for the sunrise. We also wanted to find our own temple for the sunset. On like do all of these things, and doing it yourself also makes us feel proud of ourselves, right? Because it's part of the experience. It's part of identifying where you really want to go. And you know there's so much to see. There's really really so much to see, and I'm actually so very excited for you and your business in the coming days, because now that the world is opening,
I know.
it's opening back up again, and many people are going to need your services. Number one, they probably don't have enough money yet, if somebody lost their job, or they're still anxious to spend money to spend on travel agents, travel agencies. But if they get your
Right.
services, they get your products, they will be able to do it themselves at a much cheaper price. So I'm so
Exactly.
I'm very excited. Very excited. So all of you, anyone who's watching, listening, wherever you are watching or listening this from, please get in touch with Angela. Okay, another question that I have: Flexitarian Digest. What does it mean?
Yeah, so I was thinking like, okay, I thought about using my name, but I was like, no, I want to give it a little bit of a twist. So I was just like, okay, like I really love the notion of food and travel. So I was like, how can I kind of put those two things together? And I thought like, okay, digest sounds really cool. And then I put the flexitarian in it because I was like, okay, like, I'm not a super strict type traveler. Yes, I like to, yeah, so I'm not a super strict traveler or travel planner. I actually like to have some flexibility within my itineraries as well. So then I was just like, okay, like, yeah, you're just kind of like a flexitarian. Like, you just kind of go off the flow, but you always have a plan, like a backup plan. So that's why I thought they were like the perfect marriage for each other.
That's so nice. Are there countries that you serve, or do you have like blockbuster countries that people have been asking for now? The number one requests, or any recommendations for a as a place that people should visit?
I really don't put any recommendations on a specific place. My focus really is just to get people out traveling, because I think that's just like the biggest obstacle, because you think of social media, especially Instagram, people see all these photos and they're like, oh my God, that looks amazing and I want to go. But no one gives them the actual tools to be able to, like, okay, you want to go to this place. Here's how you do it. And here's how you can do it for your kind of budget. They just show you the beautiful pictures. So where I come in is like, yeah, you can pretty much go to any destination that fits with your kind of travel style and your budget. It's just about having the tools instead of just like the pictures, but then no substance behind them type thing.
Okay. Is there any country that you still want to go to someday? Now that the world is open,
Oh my, oh my God,
do you have a top
monkeys.
five?
Ah, gosh, that's so hard. A top five. I mean, I'm actually for myself planning to do like a European type live trip for the fall. So I'm going to go to Spain, Greece, and the UK. But then I also want to go to Turkey, South Africa, Costa Rica, Belgium, Australia, New Zealand. Like the list could go on and on and on and on. Just so many places I want to go see.
I know, me too. You know, this conversation is very exciting. I'm super thankful that we were able to travel back again, at least to home. This is our second home in Michigan in the US. You know, and then people I've been seeing people posting that they're traveling back again, at least in the Philippines, and you know, even here in the US. So I'm really excited about that. Okay, so we're gonna wrap things up now. For in terms of business, and you know, we have a lot of listeners and viewers right now who are new online entrepreneurs, and like what you said, you know, um, that insight is like a value bomb, because the insight of having a particular need that you are, you know, filling. It's the same way with me. People were asking for trainings for how to transition digitally, and you were like, people were asking me for advice, and I might as well monetize. Do you have any advice out there for people like us? Maybe, you know, still thinking, not really there yet, but they have an idea, or new online entrepreneurs. What is the first thing that they should do? You know, any advice for new online entrepreneurs out there?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I would say, this is exactly what I did when I was thinking about my kind of product, is the notion of like, okay, do you have a product market match? That will pretty much set the tone for everything, because you could choose a niche, you could do all the work, but if you don't have the client base for it, or there's no need for it in the market, then you're pretty much going to be driven into the ground, because you're just going to be working towards something that people aren't really going to buy. So that's why it's really important to do your market research and then have everything come after it. Because then if you can see like, okay, like I found this, even if it's a small little gap, that gap is enough, and then you can run with that, compared to like having nothing at all and then you're just, you know, throwing spaghetti at the wall and, you know, trying to do all the things.
Okay. So, oh, wait, one more time. Throwing spaghetti on the wall and hoping one will stick, right?
Exactly.
There's
Nobody wants that.
Yeah, even the meatballs won't stick, guys. If there's no need, if there's no need, yes, I mean, I don't know if I got lucky. It's also years of experience, and like you, it's also years of experience of travel that allowed us to have this and to do this. So on the opposite end, so that's your best advice. Do you remember any, this can come from your travels, this can come from anywhere, any best advice that you were given that you still take with you until now?
I'm trying to think. I think just if I could sum it up simply, it would just be to go for it and not feel like you have to have everything in place to be able to do something. It's really just the best thing to actually just take the leap and kind of learn as you're going along, compared to thinking like, okay, I have to have XYZ in place. And then you're waiting years to finally do something when you could have actually been doing something really profound in those like 2 or 3 years type thing.
Yeah, like that's I I also, I also did that because when I lost my job April 4, by April 23, I was already doing paid trainings. Like what you said, just go for it. It doesn't matter if it's not perfect. Nothing is perfect. And if nothing is perfect, then it will never happen. So if you don't jump and if you don't go for it, like what you said, nothing's gonna happen. So guys, if you have an idea, like what Angela said, if there's a market and product, is that what you said, right? Market and product, they have to be matched. So if there is a match, and like what Angela said, ask around. There is so much more to be had when you ask people. Just ask. Sometimes we feel like it makes us feel less of a person when we ask, but don't let that get to you. Asking can be very powerful. All right, so Angela, where can we find you? I'm sure a lot of my entrepreneurs need a break too. So when we take a break, when we start traveling again, go and find Angela. Where can we find you?
Yeah, so the best place to find me is on Instagram, and it's at the Flexitarian Travels. So I always do like little travel tips, like any travel news, any like new kind of electronics or gear that will just like simplify, you know, when you're going out to travel, and just kind of like make life overall easier and more, I'm trying to think of the word, almost like a more like automated type process, instead of feeling like, oh my god, like it has to be so overwhelming. No, your travel actually can happen with ease and flow. So that's what I try to bring.
So Instagram, the Flexitarian Travels, correct? Yes. All right. So thank you, Angela, for guesting in our change makers episode for today. And for all of you viewers, listeners today, let's take a break. We entrepreneurs need a break sometimes. Let's go travel. Travel heals the soul, and we have been beaten, and some of us to the ground the last year and a half, and we need this. So let's take Angela, let's follow Angela on Instagram, and see how we can learn and do our DIY trips and travel from her. So thank you again, Angela, and thank you everyone for listening and watching to Change Makers. Bye everyone.